Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 934, Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty, well, let's just go ahead and start right here at the top. Let's see. We have Rand Paul, who was just on Tucker Carlson, and in doing so, he blasted Lindsey Graham, just like a lot of people have been doing. And he talked about the fact, in which we've talked about before, that Lindsey promised hearings on the deep state, on the FBI, on the CIA, on Spygate, on Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Uncle Bob the Executioner, Helper, and nothing. We've got nothing from Graham. He says Lindsey Graham is the worst. Now, I know there's a personal deal going on there between Graham and Paul. They don't like each other. That's pretty obvious, and that's fine and dandy. That's how things are supposed to work. But in this regard, I have to agree with Rand Paul. And, of course, I like Rand Paul. I don't really like Lindsey Graham that much, to be honest with you. I think his one shining moment during the Kavanaugh hearings was pretty good. But overall, I've never been a big fan of Lindsey Graham, and this is absolutely correct. It's not just Rand Paul pointing this out. We've talked about it before here. After the IG put out his report on Comey, I expected there would be some hearings on Comey, and he could have drug in McCabe and a whole bunch of other people. Lindsey Graham has now been the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee since the midterm elections. What has he done? What hearings? Because the whole time that the bug-eyed fool and that the Penguin have been having their hearings, and Elijah Cummings and all these other people having their hearings, calling all these witnesses, he could have been countering them in the Senate. He could have said, okay, well, we're going to take the other side, and we're going to call in our own people, and we're going to call in those people, and we're going to grill the exact same people on the exact same topic. Well, we're actually going to do it in a fair way. Lindsey Graham could have been countering the House this whole time through and literally blown their entire ship out of the water. But he hasn't done squat. Not diddly squat. And I'm starting to wonder what's going on here. Now, we all know that he was best friends with Senator Magoo. And, of course, we know Senator Magoo was deeply involved in the coup. And so I find it very difficult to believe that Magoo wasn't sharing his information with Graham and sharing his ideas and his plots and everything that was going on. And I'm starting to wonder, is the reason that he's not having any of these hearings is because he doesn't want to dig into it? Because if he does, it might come out that he too was part of the coup? But only when he saw that Trump won, and only when he saw that Trump was going to beat the rap, knowing how popular that Trump is in South Carolina, that he had no choice but to suck up to Trump. Probably hates him, but he knows that as popular as Trump is in South Carolina, that if he doesn't pretend to be a friend of Trump, then he's probably going to take some heat. Now, he's got a challenger who's supposedly a pretty strong challenger, and on the Democrat side, who is raising a lot of money. But still, I think Graham has a lot more money. He is the incumbent there. He's pretty hard to beat. I guess what disappoints me the most is that Lindsey Graham's not being primaried, or if he is, he's not being primaried by anybody of any stature, because I never hear about it, because I'm sure there's probably some people primarying him, but for whatever reason that I really can't explain, people in South Carolina continue to re-elect Lindsey Graham, and I just could not understand it. I don't know what's the deal here, but I don't know. Maybe it's not as conservative of a place as I thought it was. But for whatever reason, Graham continues to get reelected there in South Carolina. And I really hope people in South Carolina see through this and are asking the same questions. Now, Graham is promising that after the Horowitz report comes out that he is going to have some hearings. But we'll just have to watch and see what happens here. Because at this point, I'm like Rand Paul. I'm not a fan of the man named Lindsey Graham. Okay, let's move on to the next issue. It looks like the censure vote on the bug-eyed fool failed in the House. And it failed because before Andy Biggs could bring the bill up, Steny Hoyer brought up a motion to table the vote, table the bill before it could be voted on. It wasn't actually a bill, but whatever they call it. So, of course, the Republicans wanted to vote to have a censor to censure Adam the Bug-Eyed Fool, and so Steny Hoyer puts up another vote before that to table the vote so that the vote really doesn't happen. Now, I should say that the vote to table the motion was 218 to 185. 218 to 185. So you had 218 people voting with the Democrats and Steny Hoyer to table the vote. Now, I understand that there was 22 or 23 Republicans who voted with the Democrats here. Now, we need to find out who those 22 or 23 Republicans are, and we need to get rid of them. And I certainly hope in 2020, in addition to re-electing President Trump in an overwhelming fashion, I certainly hope that we get rid of a lot of rhinos at the same time. Just get rid of them. And the biggest rhino we need to dump is Mitt Romney. Unfortunately, he's a senator, so he's not back up for re-election for 6 years. I don't know if they have a recall election in Utah, but love to see him recalled, although that probably won't happen because Mitt Romney's pretty popular in Utah. And clearly they don't like Trump in Utah. There are a lot of Mormons that live there, and my guess is that Mormons aren't particularly fond of Trump's personality, I guess you might say, because they had that idiot Evan McMullin running and trying to cost him Utah in the last election. So yeah, Utah was just, for whatever reason, just not. They're not, I guess, libertarian-minded, freedom-loving people. They're obviously Mitt Romney types, and that's a shame. So fortunately, they don't hold a lot of votes there, but still, it kind of bothers you. In a lot of ways, I wish they'd just go ahead and turn into a blue state. If we're not going to get a really good Republican, a good conservative out of there, hell, they might as well be a Democrat. At least maybe we can actually run a serious challenge at them sometime. But having turncoats like Willard, the Mitwit Willard, I would just assume have a Democrat than have him. I'd rather have a Democrat than a turncoat Republican, to be honest with you. The turncoat Republican can do a lot more damage than the Democrat can. So that's my position on the issue. I'm sick of Mitwit. I was sick of him a long time ago. I wish we could recall him, but it probably won't happen in Utah. They obviously like the guy. I'm not sure why. Like I said, I would just as soon, see. In fact, if you're a Republican there, if there's nothing better than a Mitwit or a Willard running in 6 years or 4 years from now, when he's running for re-election, if we can't find something better than that we can get elected in Utah, I would just soon see you Republicans out there vote for the Democrat. We're better off with the Democrat than with a fake Republican, really. Especially when you're looking at what's coming up. They're probably going to do the impeachment hearings. What are the Democrats looking for? They're looking for a handful of Republicans to join them so they can say, see, it's not a partisan effort. We have Republicans. Yes, that's right. You're going to have Mitwit, Willard Romney. You're going to have Murkowski. You're going to have Susan What's-Her-Name up in Maine. You're going to have 5 or 6 like Republicans who will likely sign on to the impeachment. And that's why I say we'd be better off with a Democrat than with a turncoat Republican. They do more damage as Republicans than they would do as a Democrat. Simple reasoning. Very, very disappointed in the state of Utah. Well, President Trump was ripping, speaking of Mitwit Willard Romney, Trump was ripping him today, saying that he will be forever known for his treason and backstabbing. Yes, obviously he will be forever known for his treason and backstabbing, and that's why I suggest we need to get rid of him, and if we can't get rid of him, let's replace him with a real Democrat. Well, it looks like the Rotten Reverend Clinton was out in Portland, where, by the way, they're getting rid of urinals. No more urinals in Portland, so that kind of sucks. Men like urinals, okay? Let's just be honest about it. But, of course, you can't have men in Portland. There is no more men in Portland. There's no men, there's no women. Everybody is unisex. I'd like to reverse that process. If everybody's just unisex, why are we getting rid of the urinal? How about we get rid of the toilet, the commode? Let's get rid of the commode and the toilet. Let's see how long the ladies go along with that idea when they have to try to do their business in a urinal. But the Right Reverend Clinton's out there in Portland, along with her satanic offspring, Chelsea Hubble. And she says that unless Trump is impeached and removed from office, he will be very hard to beat in 2020. Well, he'll be impossible to beat in 2020. And he's not going to be removed from office. I don't know if he'll be impeached or not. But if he is, it's going to cost whoever votes for that impeachment probably going to cost them their seat if they're in a red state or in a district where Trump won. If they're a Republican, they're probably toast as well, unless they're in Utah. And let's keep in mind, this has been Hillary's position since before she even lost the election. Let's not forget Christopher Steele's deposition. He was asked, how did you go about getting involved in this? And he said, I was paid by a law firm representing the Clinton campaign to produce evidence that Clinton could use in case she lost the election, evidence that she could use to challenge the election in court. So what happened to the Right Reverend Clinton's plan is that all the evidence that was supposed to get rid of Trump didn't pan out because it was all lies. So now the Right Reverend has gone to plan B, which is impeachment. I'm telling you, you will find the hand of the Right Reverend Clinton in everything. Just ask Tulsi Gabbard. The Daily Beast, they hate President Trump with a passion. Absolutely hate him. They bought into the whole Russiagate conspiracy, and now they look stupid right along with a lot of other members of the corporate media. But we have the Daily Beast, this Trump-hating entity, reporting that Joseph Mifsud is cooperating with Attorney General Barr and Mr. Durham. This is the Daily Beast, hardcore anti-Trump, saying that Mifsud is cooperating with Barr and Durham. This is according to their sources. They obviously have some sources. I don't know if they're in Italy or the UK or where their sources are, but their sources, and they're not saying who their source is, they're just saying that their sources are telling them that Mifsud is cooperating with Attorney General Barr and John Durham. They're even saying that that they may have met with Mifsud when they were recently in Italy. So the Daily Beast now reporting that they may have actually met with Mifsud. Now, up until now, all we've heard is that they wanted to meet with Mifsud, and then they were putting pressure on the Italian government to produce Mifsud. Like, hey, we know you know where he is. We want to talk to him. Bring him in. Now, when you go back now, when you look at the way that was done, the way that Barr and Durham went there with very little notice, 3 days notice, bypassed all the normal protocols, didn't go to official government buildings, avoided the political class, went right to law enforcement and military intelligence. All these things, and we also heard from La Repubblica that they did put a lot of pressure on the Italian government not to do two things. Number one, produce Mifsud, but also to admit their role in cooperating with the Obama administration in the coup effort. And so this is not the first time we've heard it suggested that Mifsud may have met with Barr and Durham. But their source is telling them that 100% Mifsud is cooperating with Barr and Durham. Now, maybe that's how they got the phones. Maybe that was Mifsud himself who produced the phones. And it's possible, according to the Daily Beast, that they may have met with Mifsud. Now, that would explain why they'd make such an urgent trip. Maybe they got the word. Maybe someone from Italy called and said, okay, we finally tracked down Mifsud. We know where he is. He's willing to talk to you or whatever. We got to have a secret meeting place or whatever. That would explain why they didn't go to the usual places they would go as government diplomats or whatever. They went to like a private place kind of out to the country. So this would explain the real secretive meeting and the last minute, trip and avoiding the protocols and all those sorts of things. That would explain a couple of things. If they actually met with Mifsud, that would explain maybe how they got the phones, or maybe it was them getting the phones that helped them to get to the Italian officials and say, hey, we got these phones, and so we got a pretty good idea where Mifsud is and what he's doing or whatever. Maybe they tracked him down. So it's still very, very unclear, and this is all speculation, but I'm just telling you what's being reported by the Daily Beast, which is that Mifsud is cooperating, according to their source, with Barr and Durham, and that he may have met with them when they were in Italy. Well, things keep going wrong for the rotten Reverend Clinton, and that is good. More evidence obtained by Judicial Watch. And my friends, you got to go over to Judicial Watch and read some of the emails that they have posted that they just got. You want to talk about smoking gun. Man, it's literally right there in their conversations. So Judicial Watch has obtained emails that 100% show that the rotten Reverend Clinton lied to the Senate on Benghazi and on numerous things, not just one thing or two things or three things. One main thing she's caught lying on is, remember when Rand Paul asked her if she knew if they were moving weapons out of Libya into Syria or something, and she's like, Syria? And he, whoa. How about moving weapons out of anywhere? Moving weapons out of Libya. And she basically waffled on her answer. And eventually, when Rand Paul pushed her on it, she basically said, no, I don't know about anything going on like that. Lying through her teeth. We now have evidence that, in fact, that was happening. Of course, I told you this a long time ago. The whole thing going on in Libya was a gun-running operation. Sidney Blumenthal had something going on there. They were going to try to scrape some graft off the top, along with Jonathan Weiner. Some of that would probably find its way into the rotten Reverend Clinton's $400,000 purse. Yeah, lots of things discovered here, but specifically, if you go to Judicial Watch's website, you can read, I don't think they've got everything posted, but I read some of the more damning stuff that's been posted there. It took me 10 minutes to read just what's there, and it absolutely is the email conversations between State Department officials literally talking about scheming how they're going to cover up the rotten Reverend Clinton's Benghazi connections, and also how they wanted to. You can see that they were very concerned. There was a lot of concern by these people trying to cover for the rotten Reverend. They were afraid that the Benghazi situation was going to cause people to discover her private email system, her private server. They were concerned that the Benghazi thing was going to lead to the discovery of the rotten Reverend Clinton's private server. So they knew it was a problem. The rotten Reverend Clinton knew it was a problem. There goes intent out the window. They were trying to cover up. You can read it there in emails. Not just the gun running, the emails, the scam that Blumenthal was running. She's lying to the Senate, obviously. So the emails are 100% show that the rotten Reverend Clinton misled the Senate on Benghazi. Also shows the State Department wanted to hide Benghazi connection to the Clinton email scheme. It's all right there. Judicial Watch has got it. All they need to do is go. And remember, where are they getting it? They're getting it from the Department of Justice. So the Department of Justice has got all this. Why is the rotten Reverend Clinton still walking around? First of all, I mean, she's dangerous. She's a threat to the Republic. She's a threat to the Republic. She needs to be taken off the streets. She's behind the coup. She's using her influence and her money and her corrupt dealings to cause massive chaos in the country. She's a destabilizing factor. She is a criminal. She needs to be taken off the street. My God. Papagalopoulos on his Twitter says the following. Clapper has gone awfully silent since his month-long adventure in Australia, where he discussed how to cover up his and Australia's involvement in spying on me and others. in his testimony to Congress, he said he had never heard of Papadopoulos. His perjury is going to come back. You know, I didn't even know that. I probably know it and just forgot about it. Clapper was asked if he knew anything about Papadopoulos, and he said he didn't even know who it was. Despite the fact that they they allegedly opened the count. We know that's a lie, but they say that they opened the counterintelligence operation on July 31st, 2016 against the Trump team because of Papadopoulos. Yet Clapper's going to say, oh, Papadopoulos? Never heard of him. Man, this guy's a lying son of a bitch. I mean, this guy lies. This guy lies when it's easier to tell the truth. This all he does is lie. Every time you see him, he's lying. He spent his entire year as a spook. His entire life has been spent as a spook. And what do? They lie. I guess if you lie every day of your life for 50, 60 years, I guess it just becomes habit. Just like the Rotten Reverend. Lies. That's all it is. These people make me sick. They need to be arrested. The sooner the better, Mr. Barr. My oh my. The Democrats are not going to like this one. CD Media is now reporting that the Ukrainian government is ready to cooperate, and they have been cooperating, by the way, with the FBI on the laundering of hundreds of millions of IMF money and the DNC's efforts to cover it up. Clearly, that would make a lot of sense why the Democrats are so batshit crazy over Ukraine. Because in addition to their scandalous behavior in the 2016 campaign, maybe there's an even bigger crime that they're worried about. Money laundering of millions of dollars from the IMF? Well, that's what they're looking into Poroshenko for. They just arrested one of his buddies. Another one escaped, but they're looking for him. I'm sure that they'll get an extradition on him and bring him back and throw his ass in jail, prosecute him. And they are right now building their case on Poroshenko. They raided his home this past weekend and took everything out of there. And Poroshenko's apparently either fled the country or is going to be fleeing the country. That's not going to work. If you're involved in a massive money laundering scheme from the International Monetary Fund, I'm sorry, but they're going to get an extradition and bring you back. And you are going to be tried for those crimes. And of course we know that Poroshenko was up to his eyeballs in crime and corruption, and he was connected at the hip with the Obama administration, quid pro quo Joe, and the Rotten Reverend, along with a lot of Democratic politicians. Man, oh man, what a dirty, dirty deal these people were involved in. And this may be actually what they're really mostly afraid of. I mean, yeah, the 2016 election, maybe they think they can get by on that, but when you're talking about laundering IMF money by the hundreds of millions of dollars, and the Democratic National Committee, Democrats in general, Obama administration and others are involved in the covering up of all that crime. And now you have a prosecutor over there and a president and a prosecutor who are serious about the corruption problem. That's what this guy ran on. He ran on uncovering the corruption and weeding out the corrupt people, and that appears to be what he's doing. And essentially, he's draining the swamp in Ukraine. Just like Trump and hopefully Barr are going to drain the swamp here in the United States. And it's all connected. Man, that sounds bad, folks, doesn't it? That sounds really bad. That would explain the crazy, bizarre behavior by the Democrats. It's probably not just what they did in 2016. That's probably something they think they can get off on. But laundering hundreds of millions of dollars of IMF money through corrupt Democrat politicians and Ukrainian politicians, that would be a completely other deal there. And that's not one that they'll find any sympathy for at all. And that's the kind of thing that can put you in jail for a long time. Just ask Paul Manafort. So CD Media is also reporting that that the Ukraine government has and will continue to provide the FBI with the evidence that they are discovering and uncovering. Not only that, CD Media has also been getting their hands on a lot of these documents, and they are going to begin publishing them very soon. Oh boy. That doesn't sound good for the commies. Well, it looks like Crazy Bernie, oh boy, Crazy Bernie, the crazy commie is teamed up with the wild-eyed commie, Ocasio-Cortez, and they had a joint interview where Sanders is now saying that Cortez is going to work in his administration. That's how Bernie. Everybody's trying to get the AOC support, and Bernie ends up getting it by promising her a job in his administration. How easy was that? I bet Warren and Gabbard are probably going, oh, why didn't I think of that about that? Why didn't I offer her a job in my administration? Nope, Bernie beat you to it. The problem is, Bernie ain't going to be the president. He's not even going to be the Democrat nominee. It ain't going to happen. So Cortez is smoking a pipe dream. And I'll tell you what, she's got like 9 different people running against her in her district. I don't know that she's going to win her district. She might not even be reelected to Congress, let alone serve in the Bernie administration. There ain't going to be a Bernie administration, and I think it's very, very likely that Ocasio-Cortez is not even going to be able to hold on to her seat. I would not be surprised. She's a one-hit wonder. Like a shooting star. She flamed out. Just like they all do. Well, trying to follow what's going on in the Canadian elections at about 8:30 Eastern Standard Time here where I am. We still don't know what the result of it is, but I was just checking on it before I started doing this video, and it looks like they're calling it a deadlock. In other words, doesn't appear to be anyone. It doesn't appear that at this point they can tell us which side is going to carry the most seats in the parliamentary elections, or whether Trudeau, and that'll have a lot to do because they have a parliamentary system there. So I guess if the Liberals win, I guess maybe Trudeau will probably remain Prime Minister, but if the Conservatives win, I would certainly assume he will not. So that's what everybody's following right now. But at this time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, they're calling what's going on there a deadlock. I don't know exactly what that means. Man, it's a Canadian term for I don't know. But who knows? But hopefully by this time tomorrow, the picture will be more clear. Would love to get rid of Justin Trudeau. I would love to. Many Canadians would love to get rid of him as well. He's a wart on the ass of the world, and he's like a cold sore. I mean, something about this guy, man. I just want to be rid of him. I'm just tired of looking at him, tired of listening to him. I just want him to take his black face and go home. And of course, they have someone's finally uncovered and discovered the fake Twitter account by Willard. That's right, Willard Mitt Romney. The whole time, the last 2.5 years, all he does is talk about how Trump's tweeting all the time, and he doesn't like Trump tweeting all the time, and it's, Trump should be above tweeting all the time. And here we find out that he himself has been tweeting like a madman under an alias. And the alias that he's been tweeting under is PR Delecto. Pierre Delecto. That's kind of strange. Why do you think he would use a name like Pierre Delecto? Well, lots of people are throwing their hat in here to comment on why that may be, so I might as well get my own comment on it, right? Well, many of you may not know this, but in an effort to avoid the Vietnam War and not be drafted, Mitwit went to France, because France was, a place to go where he could avoid being drafted. And what he did, the excuse he used is that he was going there as a missionary. He was going there to advance the cause of the Mormon religion, I guess, and Joseph Smith and the whole 9 yards. But the problem with that is at that time in France, and probably still true today, they did not allow you to do that type of proselytizing in France. You weren't allowed to go up and promote religion on the street, leave little flyers on people's door, on their windshields or the windshield wipers. You weren't allowed to do any of that type of stuff back then. I don't know about today, but back then I know you were not allowed to do that. No proselytizing in France back in those days. So to say that he was going there on a mission, a missionary mission, to advance the cause for Joseph Smith and the folks, apparently that's bullshit. He went to France to avoid the Vietnam War. And he probably, while in France, probably had a butt buddy named Pierre. That's my guess. He's probably got a butt buddy somewhere in France named Pierre Delecto. That would be my guess. I'm just taking a wild shot. Well, it looks like the attacks on Tulsi Gabbard by the rotten Reverend Clinton have backfired bigly. Because right now, she is moving up in the polls, and the money is rolling in. Money is rolling in to Tulsi Gabbard. She's moving up in the polls, and the Right Reverend Clinton had to cancel her appearance at a conference she was going to be speaking at for women because Tulsi was going to be there as well. So she couldn't stand to face Tulsi, and she knows that if she showed up there, Tulsi would call her out right there and would embarrass the hell out of her. Yep, it was a massive, massive takedown. The Rotten Reverend Clinton has no shame. She's still out there in public, hiding like a coward that she is. This is what bugs me about the Rotten Reverend Clinton. She puts out this book about, women, tough women, and she wants to pass herself off as this tough woman. Yeah, right. That's why she didn't divorce that scumbag when he was getting a BJ in the White House, cheating on her with dozens and dozens of women, raping women, and then she's out there protecting him. That took no courage on her part. She's a coward, and she doesn't go out and take on people directly. She doesn't go out there and just try to stand with Trump personally or Tulsi Gabbard. She uses her allies and her henchmen to do all of her dirty work. The Rotten Reverend Clinton has no courage whatsoever, not a bit, not a single bit in her body. She's a coward. She hides behind other people to do her dirty work, her henchmen. That's what she does. She is disgusting, despicable. She needs to be taken off the street. She's a criminal. I'm sick of her. Sick of her. Well, there's something we all need to consider that's going to be happening here in the not-too-distant future if you believe that Barr and Durham are actually conducting a real investigation. And it appears from recent evidence that we've been getting that they are. That's what it looks like. It looks like Barr and Durham are actually trying to get to the bottom of the conspiracy. But as you can see, the media is resisting it. They're kind of stuck now. You're seeing some media outlets reporting on it. Some are still saying that, it's a conspiracy theory. But some are starting to kind of, waffle a little bit. We saw Rolling Stone, Matt Taibbi, actually come out and write a couple articles. One about, why the coup is more dangerous than Trump. And another article now where he's talking about, there's a lot of evidence that what Trump was saying was right. That he probably was spied on. They probably did try to run a frame up on him. Look what they're doing now. So now the corporate media is running into a big, big problem because they just spent nearly 3 years selling a lie, which they knew was a lie, a conspiracy theory, a lie, selling the lie, while telling people that the real crimes were actually a conspiracy theory. So here in the not too distant future, it's all going to come out that in fact the real truth was the thing that they were calling the lie, and the real lie was the thing they were calling the truth. And they're going to be exposed. And they had a role to play in a lot of it. Imagine how bad this is going to be. As bad as it's going to be for the criminal conspirators, it's going to be even worse for a lot of media corporations and so-called journalists. I'm talking careers ruined. Careers ruined. There are many so-called reporters who staked their career on this fake Russiagate story thinking it was going to fly, but it didn't. And they were telling everybody that the idea that Trump was being spied on was a great big conspiracy theory. They're locked into that position. They've written many, 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 many words on the topics. So they can't hide from the words. They're documented. They're written in stone. And once the truth comes out, they're all going to be exposed as not just incompetents, not just incompetent reporters, not just failed reporters, but liars. They knew what they were reporting was bullshit. They knew they were reporting lies while covering up the truth. That's what they were doing. That's how you ruin a reporter's career. And many reporters' careers are going to be in the toilet, and so should they be once the truth comes out. And I believe it is coming out. Keep the faith. You guys take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.